Hi, good afternoon. This is observation number 2 for my principal practicum observation. My name is Donna Martin. This is my 7th year in education, my 4th year in special education. I am currently grade chair of the SPED department. My site supervisor is Mr. Jacob Chavarria. He is my assistant principal. Right now, I have 3 other colleagues that will introduce themselves and their roles and positions here on campus.
Hi, my name is Courtney Ice. I'm a 4th grade math and science teacher. I'm also team lead and a principal intern here on campus.
Catherine Blake, math resource teacher here at Savannah Lakes Elementary.
My name is Miranda Freitag. I am the ASD teacher for pre-K through 2nd here at Savannah, and this is my 15th year of teaching.
Thank you, ladies, for joining me today on observation number 2. Also, right now we will go over our meeting norms, which is to maintain respectful and solution-focused tones and honoring each participant's voice. During this observation, we will remain fully engaged and minimize any distractions, remain positive, and stay focused on growth opportunities for our student. The campus that I am at is Savannah Lakes Elementary. The grades that we service are grades pre-K through 5th grade. We will now begin. The objective for this observation is by the end of the data review session, participants will be able to analyze disaggregated academic performance data, benchmarks, state assessments, things of that nature, for specifically economically disadvantaged students and students at risk, identify performance trends and achievement gaps, and prioritize at least one targeted area for instructional improvement. Key terms that we will be focused on in this observation are economically disadvantaged and at-risk students. Here at Savannah Lakes, we are a Title I campus that has a total of 823 students currently enrolled. Again, we do service students from pre-K through 5th grade. The largest ethnic groups are African Americans and Hispanics. 58% of our campus is economically disadvantaged and 40% are at-risk students. All right, ladies, let's go ahead and dive into this data. Last time when we met, we talked about specifically math for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students that really were experiencing some academic gaps. We did look at our table report, so if we can just kind of go back to that to spiral in some of that information, as Ms. Blake is new to our observation team. So some things that we talked about for some different trends that were happening in math, specifically for 3rd grade for the economically disadvantaged. We had a small decline at MEETS of 10%, but a slight increase at Masters of 2%. Overall, fewer students are meeting grade level expectations, though the most advanced students kind of pretty much held steady. They didn't grow, they didn't regress, they kind of just stayed where they were. For our African American students, approaches improved, but it was a sharp drop at MEETS by 13% and Masters at 10% decline. It kind of just indicated fewer students were reaching higher proficiency levels overall for the African American students. For our Hispanic students, we're still in 3rd grade. The growth in MEETS was up 6%, Masters by 14%. So the Hispanic students showed a strong gain in that area. Our SPED students had a significant improvement across all levels, particularly in meets at a 45% increase, which is huge, and masters at 20%. Our fourth grade economically disadvantaged students declined pretty much across the board. Do you guys see that? So masters went down by 12%, showing that fewer students hit mastery level. We went from, in 2023, 15% at masters to 2024, 3% at masters. That was a pretty big drop. The African American students in fourth grade dropped in every level across the board. Approaches 15%, meets at 9%, and masters at 7%. Why do you guys think, like what do you think happened there? That it shows like those are now our fifth grade students. So
I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit last time how, like, maybe the expectation is the abstract level, that we're taking away the manipulatives and the concrete level too quickly.
right. That could definitely be it. So clearly that was a group of students that really needed that support. The Hispanic students, while they approached increased by 10%, fewer students are meeting mastery and mastery grade level. For the SPED students, there was major decline overall. Approaches declined by 33%, meets declined by 54%, and masters declined by 37%. And now we're gonna go ahead and go into, we're just spiraling back in this information so we can go ahead and get focused on the topic on hand today, which is creating interventions to specifically target these gaps. So for fifth grade, our economically disadvantaged students, significant declines across all levels. Mastery at that point literally hit a 0%. For African American students, decline continued again, particularly at masters, that went down by 2%. The Hispanic students, major drops at all levels, especially at masters, that we went from 11% masters that previous year to 2024, 0% at masters. So that was an 11% decline. And the SPED students, approaches decreased slightly, but meets grew by 14%, indicating that some progress for students on IEPs. So those IEPs, those individualized plans, could have definitely been helping for our SPED students at that time. So now that we reviewed those gaps, and we kind of identified our needs assessment from observation 1, how do these gaps show up in your daily classroom routine? Because you're in gen ed.
Right. So what I see a lot for place value is there's a lot of mastery when it comes to expanded form, and some of the parts of the teeth that are spiraling from third, there's a lot of strength with, like expanded form, visualizing, but when we get into expanded notation or multiplying by multiples of 10, and knowing that the value, like to the left is 10 times or to the right is 1/10 of, that multiplication piece with bigger numbers is where there's gaps. Because there's a jump from, I think, 3rd grade, correct me if I'm wrong if you know, but I think 3rd grade only goes up to 100,000, whereas 4th grade goes up to 1 billion. So there's a big jump in numbers.
Okay,
like
so
in
then that could be the
digits.
contributing barrier, to why there are some gaps
Right.
from 3rd through 4th, as it specifically pertains to place value. Cause I know we looked at the place value, TEAC specifically, TEAC 4.2B, as a readiness standard that really needed to be addressed.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't know if a gap in instruction as well is the manipulatives for the place value discs that we have here on campus only go up to 100,000. So like for me, I've had to get my own that go up to a billion.
Okay, so we don't have any manipulatives on campus that
reach these
would
numbers.
aid in those like billion numbers.
Right, that reach the rigor of the teeth.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Now, is that something that,
We have our 3D printer now, so we can make some.
is that something that you guys have like talked about maybe in PLC on how is that being substituted? How, is it something where it's as simple as maybe ordering for the IC code, so it's a matter of just like having the funds to order those manipulatives?
Well, of the 4 of us, 2 have just gotten our own. And the other 2 are using like the paper ones that are in the curriculum.
But what happens when the teachers that have their own
Leave.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's valid.
Would be a concern of where we need to
Right. Oh, wow. How do these gaps align with current campus or grade level instructional priorities? So, is that a priority for our IC coach right now, right? Because that would be who this would pretty much be on, correct? Like, hey, this is where our students are struggling.
Right.
These are some hands-on manipulatives that we absolutely need to see if this is the missing part that can possibly help those students in going from abstract to concrete.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I don't know if I said this last time, but I feel like too a big part is like in the district curriculum, it goes to pictorial and abstract quickly. And so if our students obviously are showing that there's deficit areas and gaps, then it's on us to go back in small groups and differentiate. And I don't know based on the data how consistent that is happening, because I feel like if it was happening more consistently, there would be more growth.
So one thing that they added to our supplemental aids for special education last year for 3rd grade, not 5th grade, or not 4th grade, but 3rd grade, was a place value chart with pre-printed place value discs on there up to the 100,000s. If we were to do something similar up to, say, the 100 millions,
So you're saying create our own.
create our own
Okay.
and use those with a page protector of some sort where we can use expos and the kids can color them that way.
Right.
And maybe allow the kids to do their work, but then give them that as a way to check their work.
Right.
I use that with my special education students, not only to write expanded notation, expanded form, but also helping those of them that need the visuals for adding and subtracting.
Right.
To do that, I also use that particular one to put the base 10 blocks beside, so they can see that it's a multiple of 10. We need 10 units, and look, I have 10 place value discs. And this one's grayed out, so when I reach that grayed out one, that tells me that I now have 10, and I can regroup it to the tens place. And I need 10 of them to then regroup to the hundreds place. And I show them that going from the base 10 blocks to the place value discs on the place value chart.
Right.
And my ultimate goal is by third grade that they're not needing the place value disc, place value chart, that they could go to the regular place value chart with decimals up to the billions place for fourth grade. But if we're seeing that disconnect still in fourth grade, maybe it's something that we could create for the kids that's similar, that goes up to those larger numbers in fourth for them to check their work with.
Right.
At least give them some sort of scaffold and meet them where they're at until we start seeing more mastery, and then slowly taking it away.
I think that's a great idea. I know last time we did talk about, like, we drew out, I drew out an example of how just even drawing the place value disc and having that visual is a strategy that we need to, like, promote. But if I really like that idea of creating one that goes up that high. And then part of the TEAC is also getting into decimals, which we don't get into until later in the year. But one issue that we're gonna have with the place value discs as well is the ones in the curriculum don't have decimals.
I have physical place value discs with decimals.
Oh,
in my
I do
classroom.
too, from my own, but that's another thing.
Well, this
Is
was
the-
a campus kit.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, so far, we've actually came up with some, we're like jumping ahead. I like that. No, it's good because now we're actually talking about, okay, you know, what are some things that we can kind of come up with? So I think you touched on what tier 1 instructional strategies then are currently being used to kind of address these gaps. Ms. Blake just mentioned what she's doing in special education. So you pretty much kind of created your own supplemental aid.
Well, the supplemental aid was actually one that's in third grade,
Right.
but I am utilizing it to scaffold up to the fourth
Right.
grade,
Right.
showing them where it comes in. It's not one that I've fully created,
Right.
but I'm in the process of making it. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's good, because if we don't have something that is specific to the needs of our students, you know what I mean? Like, that's a great place to start to help with filling those gaps. So, are there any strategies that you have used in special education or that you've used in gen ed that has been effective thus far up until this point in the curriculum as it pertains to place value?
I do think, like, with expanded notation, using the place value discs, and then where they can count, okay, there's 3 in the 10,000s place, so that would be 3 times 10,000, and having that visual is really effective. I also, like, even when comparing numbers for place value, having a place value chart where they can stack the numbers on top of each other, and then compare the value of each digit while they're on top of one another has really been helpful, because I know that's part of.
When you're talking about comparing, you're comparing to different values or scaffolding the original value down?
No,
with their
like
zeros?
2 different values.
Okay, I do that with the place value chart as well to compare the values, and making sure that they line up on the ones place or the decimal. But another thing I do to help them with getting to expanded form, and then we discuss how expanded form is connected to expanded notation, I have them write out the full number on their place value chart, and then they have to bring each number down. We go to the highest one, they bring it down and then fill in the rest with zeros.
Right.
And they go to the second one, they bring it down and fill the rest in with zeros. And we just do that with the whole thing. And then I'm like, okay, this says 800,000. So think about how you said it. You said 8, so that's your 8
Right.
times,
Right.
but it's 100,000.
Right.
So there's 8 of the 100,000
Right.
discs. So then I have them write it out. So this is where the discs would come in handy, being able to connect that.
And are this helpful for the sped students?
Mhm.
They are. That's good. Okay. That's good. So you just mentioned the supports that you're using, or the scaffolds that you're using for the sped students. do you think like those strategies that she's using for the sped students, that they can possibly be beneficial for tier 1 instruction?
I
Or
do.
even those, you know, those tier 2 students, you know what I mean, that's like,
Yeah, I think, I like that idea a lot. I think, bringing them down and then filling the rest with zeros is something that I hadn't thought of. So that's a good idea.
cause it creates like some differentiation, and you're still like providing them, you know, like you're giving them some slight accommodation.
Right.
You
Do
know
you
what I
have the
mean?
graphic organizer where the place value is like stacked like that, so where it's all the rows, or do you just create it on paper?
I have a graphic organizer, supplemental aid that I use that with for my kids, and every single one of my, 4th and 5th grade kids have that as a supplemental aid, and we utilize it every single time that we're doing something with place value. I also will use it as a way for them to make sure that their numbers are lined up before they add and subtract, especially if we're throwing decimals in,
Right.
or if the numbers are different value, different numbers of digits
Mhm.
within their place values. So they make sure that they're lined up.
How do these strategies that you guys use, or the place value charts and things like that, is there any knowledge, I guess, of how are they utilized on the test? Like, just because, I mean, I know like any kid, if you give them something to work with and you're there guiding them,
Right.
they're like, oh yeah, I got this. But then you put it in front of a test and they're like,
They freeze.
I
Yeah,
don't
no.
remember how to use this. So
I will say that I can't speak to the previous years,
Right.
but watching in my small group on Tuesday during their math CBA, I only had 3 kids that were not utilizing some form of a supplemental aid.
Oh, that's good.
Good.
So
So-
they used at least one. Some of the kids were using 2, 3, and 4.
So that pretty much shows that if the supplemental aids are being used to fidelity within a classroom, right? Whether it be in a SPED setting, whether it be in a gen ed setting, especially for those students that are like our eco students, economically disadvantaged, or at-risk kiddos, if it's presented to them enough that they at least know how to utilize it, you know what I mean? And that they're gonna go to it for assistance, so that's good.
And if they use it enough in class, then, because it's a blank supplemental aid, it's just a graphic organizer. If they struggle with remembering which place values which, I have given them a set to take home, a blank one.
Right.
And then I've also given one that's pre-filled out as to
Right.
what place values are what. And then I sent home a sheet protector and told them, okay, put the blank one in the sheet protector and I want you to practice filling it out.
Right.
And I want you to just
Have
kind of
y'all
hide it.
seen like any maybe cultural or linguistic factors that are hindering your students from utilizing those supports? Even with the scaffolding, right? Even with the differentiation, like, are there any other things that you guys may have noticed?
When you throw in decimals, that at the end, hundredth, tenth, sometimes they don't hear it. Or their reading ability sometimes
Okay.
throws that in.
Right.
And they just see the 10 and they recognize the 10. They don't think about the TH on
Right.
the end
I
because
know
they.
we kind of talked about reading a little bit, how it does impact, of course,
Mhm.
math heavily, especially now with like 3rd, 4th, and 5th,
Mhm.
and word problems, and you know, just the way things, the verbiage is used, how it can definitely impact the students.
So
Okay.
seeing that
Even
TH.
even the base 10 blocks, when we start decimals, there's a vocabulary shift, because I know a lot of my students come to me from 3rd grade and they call it like a 100 block, a tens block, or a ones block. But then when we start decimals, the 100 flat is no longer 100, it's one whole.
Mhm.
And so there's a shift in the vocabulary,
And
so,
that does throw them off.
and that throws them off. So I try to, even when we're doing place value without decimals at the beginning of the year, to, like, this is a flat that is right now worth 100, but when we, like, I even preface, like, it's not
Right.
always worth 100, so it depends on what one whole is, so we're just gonna call it a flat from the get-go. And then putting that up on the vocabulary wall of, like, the word wall of, like, this is what it looks like and this is what it's called.
Alright, so let's go ahead now, which I think that we pretty much already came up with like a proposal for a targeted instructional activity, but let's go ahead and like plan that out seamlessly, so that way we have something that we can absolutely reference back to. So some things that I heard as you guys were talking, getting information from Gen Ed, hearing from the SPED side, creating supplemental aids that align with the rigor of the curriculum, right? So that's something that for next time, we can have already implemented and put together, which is creating a supplemental aid up to the billionth place.
Right.
That both the economically disadvantaged students and our SPED students can utilize, and it's aligned with the curriculum in place. So I think that'll be good activity for us to create, come up with, and then put into implementation. How do you guys plan on, like, once this is created, how do you, I know Ms. Blake spoke to pretty much how she uses that supplemental aid. How do you think that you can utilize that supplemental aid within the general education setting, specifically for those at-risk students and those economically disadvantaged students?
So we have been doing place value in our power time intervention block for the last 6 weeks, and we're getting ready to move on. So as far as place value, what my next steps are is I need to look at the CVA data, at the place value questions, and see what I need to spiral back in
Okay.
as we continue. And then once I do that, then I can kind of delineate how to use that supplemental aid based on the data. But I do think the strategies that she's using would be beneficial for I feel like they're beneficial for all students.
Right.
So shading them in if they're already drawn on there, and then counting them up to do expanded notation, I think that's really good. For my students that would not have that accommodation, what we talked about last time is knowing how to like draw your own place value chart and then draw them in.
Okay.
And
So
like
having
turning the
students
paper
create their
sideways.
own,
Right.
as well. So us creating something and then allowing the students to create something that really just works for them, that they understand as well. Okay.
And that could be like an anchor chart. I've seen like we talk about turning their notebook paper sideways
Mhm.
so they could use the horizontal lines vertically. Does that make sense?
To line the place values up for adding, subtracting.
Right.
Now, is this something, what role do you see, what role could collaborative planning, modeling, or peer support play in the implementation of this?
You mean like collaboration with each other?
Collaboration as far as not, of course, special education along with Gen Ed, but just like your team as a whole, right? Like when you guys are in PLC, what do you think that collaboration could look like as it pertains to you guys, and then fostering that in the classroom amongst the students as peers?
So I would love to, like in a PLC, do a micro teach where like we, like one person, like after this conversation, I would like to do a micro teach where I have either a supplemental aid, because a lot of my while I don't have any students that receive accommodations in my room, I know my peers do, right? So like modeling how to use that, or draw one, and how to do that, and what that would look like in a small group, and my peers could even be, my colleagues could even be the students, right? If that is not available on PLC, what they have been giving us time to do is they've been giving us like 10 or 15 minutes of release time to go observe each other. So like if I know someone was coming for 10 minutes, you know, they have someone covering their room, then I could already intentionally have that planned.
Correct. So that way, that other teacher is seeing how your students are utilizing that particular activity.
Right, because a lot of times we get really good ideas from other people,
Right,
and
for sure.
by observing it.
I think, as far as like collaborative, if you have like a micro teach in the PLC, then if there is any misconceptions that the teachers have, then those can be cleared up
Yes.
quickly. And then you're making sure that, you know, there's not really a lot of excuses as to why you shouldn't be implementing it into your curriculum or into your classroom.
Right.
Like, we've talked about it, we've shown, you know, I think sometimes whenever we just get ideas thrown at us, we like them, but we may not know how to actually implement them. And so seeing someone actually do the lesson would be more beneficial.
Yeah. So now, and I know Blake is very with the tech, like she's very techy. So this is really for her, but still for you. How could digital tools or technology support student learning and engagement with this particular TEAC that we're looking at, or in general? It doesn't even have to be specifically to place value. I just know that that's a TEAC that is of concern. But how do you utilize technology to kind of help filter and, you know, fill those gaps for those students who may not do so well? You know, they're very, because you have students that are very tech savvy and digital things apply to them more than the textile and, you know, so.
So, one thing that I know us as teachers, we have limited budgets.
Yeah.
But this is $50 is well worth my time and effort spending every year, is boom cards. It is digital task cards. So it's like a mini station. And the kids get immediate feedback, because if they miss it, it goes whoops. And then they get a chance to correct it. And what this does is allows them to immediately see where they're messing up. And I tell them if they get 2 whoops in a row, they have to come see me and we discuss what's going on. Because I also am able to pull a report and I see how many is just random clicks.
So you can use that information for yours to build small group too.
Exactly.
As well. Oh, okay. I like that.
And some of them have drag and drop. Some of them have the drop down menus.
Right.
Some of them have typing. So a lot of our new standard questioning for the STAR is built into those boom cards. And there are free boom cards. It's just you have to pay. You have to pay. You have to pay in order to have your classes
Right.
and be able to view the reports.
Right.
So, and I'll do that. I'll have the kids on boom cards whenever I'm pulling a small group or I'm doing data for that day
Right.
for on their goals
But
or something.
That's good that you
So-
can pull that data from that digital tool
Mm-hmm.
to help you build and foster those small groups as well. And like you said, there's a plethora of different options. So it's not just like, you know, they have the drop down, they have the drag and drop, right? Like, so
Right.
it's not just like multi.
And the great thing I also like about it is if Miranda and I are on the same set of boom cards, we may not necessarily be on the same card because it shuffles them up.
Oh, that's good.
And the kids really have, they don't realize that they can skip them and then the question comes back anyway.
Right.
But they can collaborate on how to solve it together. So it gets your kids
So that's
collaborating.
peer support, that's collaboration, full engagement, they're doing
Automatic
something
feedback.
that, right? I like that.
And another thing is you can leave on the as many attempts as you want
Mhm.
tool, because then you can reuse it and tell the kids, okay, I know you already did this a
Right.
month ago, but I wanna see what you remember.
Right.
You
And
can
you
use it
can-
almost like a progress monitoring.
Exactly, or just a spiral. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be the same questions, but the thing is they're seeing the same verbiage, the cards are now
Right.
reshuffled, it's been some time.
So they're constantly having that exposure. It's constant spiraling of
Mhm.
that information.
One thing, when she was talking about that, one thing, that I was thinking about place value specifically is that you can make your own, you can make your own boom cards. And so if you
Mhm.
are tech savvy like that, you can, you know, but
Right.
I think that
Haven't
you
done that yet.
could, I think that you could utilize like the digital place value discs to be able to get them to practice the standard notation, practice the different things where you have those discs on the picture and they're having to count the, you know, they're having to
Uh-huh.
count how many, okay, it's two times 100,000. I'm not a math person, so 2 times 100,000 plus, you know, whatever
Right.
the other parts are.
No, you made me
Um,
remember, I have, digital manipulatives as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a link to those, and I do have place value chart, place value discs, but I'm not sure what value they go up to, so I might have a digital version of what
That
we
can, you
need.
can maybe utilize that in your
I'm
class.
trying to think, I've used the digital ones in my last district, and I can't remember what they went up to. I feel like they did go up. I can't remember, to be honest. But I was gonna answer this question in the context of formative assessment. So a little caveat, just really quickly. We, as a fourth grade team in PLC, just created a common formative assessment on addition and subtraction, since that's the unit we just finished. And that's our next goal for intervention, our intervention block. And the reason I bring that up is because I've seen the power behind collaborative assessment making, but then collaborative data collection and reflection, and how all of us doing that together is then putting ownership and, what's the word I'm looking for? Like accountability in our practice. And so I want to do something similar for place value, and especially like as we're cycling back through place value
Right.
headed towards STAR. But one thing that we can do to incorporate technology is use TFAR. So because with TFAR you have those new item type, question type
Yeah.
formats, and then that would give you data and rigor. And then, I mean, then we have Imagine Math too, which you can set their pathway. So like, not everyone has to have the same pathway.
Right.
So then I could go through for students that need more targeted place value support and add the place value pathway.
Nice.
And I think looking at like linguistics and, you know, those EV kids and stuff, if you are able to say, like with the rigor, okay, like this is what type the question is, okay, well, you're able to see, can they do the process? And is it just the vocabulary that's tripping them up?
Right.
Because if they can do the process and it's just the vocabulary, well, you don't need to reiterate the process 20 times.
Right.
Because they know how to do the process.
Right.
It's because when they're reading it, they don't understand what
Correct.
the word, you know, hexagon or whatever
Right.
is. They don't understand that. So that's where they're tripping up. It's not because they don't know how to do it.
A lot of
And-
them could use expanded form and expanded
Right.
notation, yes.
And so I think that that might be something that you could utilize to figure out where are they tripping up. They're tripping up from vocabulary or from the process.
So now, just to kind of make sure, like, I'm understanding what you said, Ms. Ice. Could we use, because my next question was, what success criteria or evidence could we use, to ensure that the strategy is using? Would you say that collaborative assessment creation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Now, let me ask you, because also I think about our SPED students who are receiving inclusion support, right? And not even just the students that are identified SPED, but we have those tier 3 students that are, you know, they're right there in the limbo, that you can still send with the paras for some extra support.
Exactly.
Now, how how can paraprofessionals or support staff contribute to the implementation of filling these gaps, right, with the students?
So one thing that I'm actually in the process of working on is I have looked through their map data and I have seen like my sped students, and I got permission from the teachers to also look at anybody that's in those same classes that are on red, to kind of put them together based on TEAC deficits.
Right.
And I went all the kinder TEACs, scaffolded to the first, second, and I just made a spreadsheet of all of those kids.
Right.
And what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, this group of kids have this reporting category of TEACs, say addition and subtraction, and then when you get into 4th grade, whole number operations, which fall under that same category, that all of these kids in this group have that need. Some of them go all the way down to kinder. Some of them only go to 2nd grade. So I have worked with Mr. Hilburn, and he is making new TEAC pathways that are specifically in line with those TEACs for those kids, and assigning them to those kids to give them something to work on in Imagine Math that's specific to their needs
Right.
in their gaps. But also I am going to be creating mini lessons for our paras to do once a week
That's good.
with
Okay.
those different groups.
Has there ever been a time where like the coaches or even like the teams meet with the paras and show them how to do
Right.
something?
Right.
Because I know, like, I mean, I have been a teacher for a while, and you know, I just this year with my kiddos that I'm working with, I realized like some of my parents don't always know what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to get across.
Right.
So I have to meet with them a couple of times to be like, hey, this is how we utilize this manipulative. This is how we can utilize these supplemental aids.
Right.
I think sometimes we just think like, oh, they just know it, you know, and that's not always the
No.
case.
Correct.
You know, and it may not be lack of education, it may just be that they just haven't experienced these, because
Correct.
we didn't have a lot of manipulatives so much when we were young.
And that's one thing I'm doing with my para is before I give her the mini lesson to give to the kids, I'm going to be discussing it with
And
her and
reviewing it with her.
discussing the supplemental aids, how I want it done, going
Right.
through an example. So I'm gonna have a filled out, ready example that I'm teaching her with,
Love it.
but also that she can use to show the kids and then
Right.
teach the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and that was gonna be one of my questions, where what resources or professional development are needed to implement this activity effectively? And that was a great point that you brought up, because our paraprofessionals, you know, they work just as closely with our students as we do. I do think that as a district and as a whole, paras should get more support academically,
Yeah.
so that way they are able to efficiently support the students and help the students. You know what I mean? Because
Completely
they
agree.
are
Because they're in the trenches.
right,
They're in the trenches.
right,
I
and they're
think-
the ones that's providing those interventions, those, you know, inclusion support for those students,
I
and
think
helping us fill those gaps as well with them.
They should get a training on how to utilize the supplemental aids, how to utilize the different strategies that we're teaching kids, whether it's in reading, science, math.
I think that they should go to professional development
Yeah.
just as frequently as we go. You know what I mean? Especially for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, where, you know, kinder through 2nd, it's a little, you know, it's a little different.
It's
You know
not
what I
as
mean?
much, though.
Right. But just the expectations for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and the rigor of work and the complexity behind it, I do think paras need more support in that area.
I'm
sure.
still a big proponent of, I think we should at least have one PLC a month where like we're in a PLC together, because for the longest, I know, I'm looking at the next question about how could that fit in the current schedule, but because for me, I've been teaching for 17 years, And it wasn't until maybe my third or fourth year in fourth grade where I felt comfortable enough, like tearing myself away from the district scripted lesson plan, right? And if it was not scripted on this paper, I wasn't doing it.
Right.
Like, I tried to differentiate, but I really didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
So I feel like if we were able to collaborate together, I'd be like, that's how you break it down, or that's
Right.
how you scaffold it. You know what I mean?
Well, ladies, I want to thank you guys so much for this amazing collaboration, for your time, most importantly, and really us being able to create an activity that can really help our students fill these educational gaps. So thank you, ladies, so much for your time, and I'll see you at the next observation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.